am grateful, protested Anne, but I'd be ever so much gratefuller if you just make one of them with puffed sleeves. Puff sleeves are so fashionable now. It would give me such a thrill, Marilla, just to wear a dress with puffed sleeves. Well, you'll have to do without a thrill. I hadn't any material to waste on puffed sleeves. I guess it's time to make a dress with puffed sleeves.
I need a dress. Puff sleeves.
Puffed sleeves?
Hi guys, I'm Sostine and welcome to my channel. Anne of Green Gables is an incredibly beloved book, including by yours truly when I was growing up in the 1990s. Back then, I was honestly kind of confused what Anne meant by puff sleeves, but now that I'm a fully grown historical costume aficionado, I can tell you exactly what that means. Anne of Green Gables was written by Lindsey Montgomery in 1908. It's set a few years earlier. She never says exactly which one, but it's set somewhere in the late 19th century. In the book, Anne is absolutely obsessed with one day having a gown with puff sleeves, which were of course all the rage in the 1890s, which helps date the book more than honestly anything else. 1880s fashion, you see small, tight sleeves with a gathered head at the top. This gather gets progressively larger the later and later you get, and then the whole sleeves gets just huge until you have these giant sleeves of 1894 and 1895. After that year, they tend to get a little smaller with little butterfly sleeves until they go away completely around 1900. But as you can see, they do indeed get quite big. This is where you'll hear phrases like leg of mutton sleeves or puffed sleeves, as Anne calls them. The thing about it, I've made these sleeves before. If we are talking from a purely practical standpoint, it is a complete waste of money, especially when you have limited resources. Back in 2020, I made a walking dress with puff sleeves, and these sleeves ate up a lot of fabric indeed, with each one taking a full yard of fabric, which with wool being about $35 a yard, meant that I spent $70 on the sleeves alone for this dress. The bodice only took half a yard. So just keep that in mind. The bodice, half a yard, meaning the sleeves cost 4 times more than the rest of the jacket. So for people who are practical about money, sleeves do indeed seem like a frivolous waste. And I could see why Marilla, who is a very practical woman, would say that it's just not worth it.
Marilla, look at the puffs.
They're ridiculous. You'll have to turn sideways to get through the doors.
Well, good thing I worked extra in the hospital this month because I'm going to make myself some extra large, extra poofy, extra extravagant sleeves. Before I continue on the making of Anne's dress of dreams, let's talk about dreams, and in particular, getting a good night's sleep. I make sure to have excellent sleep hygiene and a mattress that is both safe and comfortable, which brings us to today's sponsor, Birch Living. Birch Living makes mattresses that are crafted with responsibly sourced materials such as organic cotton, organic wool, and 100% natural latex, and brings them right to your door. It was easy for me to pick Birch for both me and my kid, since their mattresses never contain cheap, dangerous fiberglass. Instead, they use 100% organic wool, harnessing its natural flame resistance, the very thing that makes wool my favorite material to sew cloaks with. Moreover, their mattresses are free from polyurethane foams, which can cause harmful off-gassing, so I can reduce my environmental impact. Personally, I ordered the Birch Luxe Natural Mattress, a premium upgrade to their original well-loved Birch Natural mattress. This one contains 8 different layers of organic cashmere, organic wool, organic cotton, and 100% natural latex, and has over 1,000 individually wrapped steel coils to help support your lumbar region, as well as limit motion transfer, which is awesome when sleeping next to someone twice your size and with 3 doggies that scurry about all night long. I've had my mattress now for 2 years and I love it. My son has had his for a year and he loves it so much that he complains about all other mattresses he sleeps on. If you have concerns about mattress longevity or satisfaction, I would like to add that with your Birch mattress, you get a 100-night sleep trial along with a 25-year warranty. The best part about all of this is that Birch delivers your mattress right to your door for free within the United States. They also offer in-home setup and removal to make your buying experience as convenient as possible. I love my Birch mattress and I think you would too. If you're looking for a new bed, check out Birch. Birch's President's Day sale is now live. Check out birchliving.com/Sostine to get 27% off your mattress with code Sostine. Thank you so much for Birch Living for supporting this video. The background of the dress is this. Marissa from the Chicago History Museum is throwing an event with the museum where people will each make a dress from one of the many paper dolls from 1895. And then they're going to have a fashion show where everybody gets to wear the dress that they made and walk down the runway. So for me, I was particularly drawn to this one, mostly because I bought that exact capelet from a flea market in Pennsylvania back in my New Jersey days last year. And this meant that I could basically do anything with the top because it's completely covered. So that's really fun. Marissa did give everyone permission to change up the colors and the exact fabric and the design a little bit, but as long as one kept to the spirit of the gown, which I of course plan on doing. Now the skirt on this one has this amazing swirl on it, but I knew it was gonna be very hard to find. So I decided to go with this Art Nouveau fabric that I had instead. Now, this Art Nouveau fabric is absolutely incredible. Kaz Rose sent me the link about a couple of months ago and I couldn't resist. It's velvet with Art Nouveau and they had it in like 6 colorways. I was so in love. I bought 10 yards of red and 12 yards of the blue. The red was going to be a gown for me and the blue was supposed to be curtains for my Art Nouveau guest bedroom. But now that I've actually seen it in person, it will also become a gown for me. But I was imagining a gown that had a very simple bodice and flared 1890s skirt with, of course, giant puffed statement sleeves. Something like Worth's blue-green gown, except of course, those sleeves are small and sad and mine are going to be big and beautiful. I was looking around at patterns on my favorite site for 1890s patterns, agelesspatterns.com, and I came across this one. I figured I'd be able to use this as a great base for my gown, and I bought it immediately and I got the paper and cut it out. Now the fashion show isn't until April, so realistically speaking, I was just going to cut it out, play around with the materials a little bit, and then put it up to the side while I worked on this one. However, the moment that I cut out that sleeve pattern and compared it to the size of, like, I don't know, my body, I realized I had to make a muslin of it. So I just want to mention that this is the sleeve pattern. This little curve is the arm part. And this whole thing is the rest of the puff. Because I mean, really, who doesn't want to see what that sleeve looks like? So I put all the other 5 projects on the back burner and I started working only on this dress. Figured I'd wear it to the Romantasy book convention in LA in February since it also reminded me of Signa Pharaoh from Belladonna by Adeline Grace. I initially started by making a mock-up. The measurements were actually pretty close to me on the initial mock-up, so I didn't really have to change all that much. The biggest thing I did alter was that the original gown is a front closing gown. However, this Art Nouveau design is so beautiful. I really wanted it to be back closing so that the front design would be completely uninterrupted. To do this, I cut off a lot of the excess fabric in the center front since it was meant to be pleated and cut it in one piece. I knew it would be a little big, but this is an easy fix and this way I could actually make it the exact right size. I also added 2 inches to the center back pieces on each side so that I'd have enough for whatever closure I chose to put in. I then put on the mock-up. Sure enough, it really did fit well enough, but I did take in the front a little bit more. But that was easily done by pinching it and then closing it, and then I knew where I would draw the line to have it actually be the center front. I then made a second mock-up, which fit perfectly. Now that I had a good, sensible working pattern, I started cutting out my bodice pieces. I cut them out one at a time so I could get a perfect mirror for each of them. Now the Art Nouveau fabric, you're supposed to have the velvet be the image and the plain fabric be the base, but I actually used the velvet side just because I liked it more, but that's just me. I tried to match all the pieces, not necessarily so that they'd be all fit together perfectly, but so that they would look harmonious with each other. I also want the main design smack front in the middle of the bodice, so I did put that there. I then flatlined all the pieces. I then sewed in all the darts and sewed it together. Keep in mind that for ironing velvet, you really can't just iron velvet straight down, or it gets a little funny looking and squished. So you can do one of two things. You can actually get a velvet ironing board, or you can iron it with another piece of velvet underneath it. Once the bodice was stitched together, I added in the sleeves. Honestly, the first time was a terrible mistake. I flatlined the whole thing. I honestly shouldn't have. It had no need for it. It just made it heavier. But once I put the sleeve together, I turned it right side out and then found that the center point of the sleeve in the armpit, the point where you have about 3 inches of perfectly mirrored fabric, and use that center and put a pin to mark that center point. There's gonna be a point in the bottom where the two can actually be mirrored like that. Like for instance, if I do it like here, it just won't be quite as well mirrored. So I look for the most bottom part where the curve matches up like so. That's the mirror point. I already found the mirror point on the sleeve, and I put the two mirror points together. There are no gathers in the armpit area, so which is why this part I did by machine. I then gathered up all around the top using a 1/4 inch gather hand. This didn't work. There was just so much thick fabric that, like, even pressed squeezed tight together, the whole gathered edge was still bigger than the sleeve head. So what I did was I did kind of like a cartridge pleat. So I did 1 inch hand gathers and then hand stitch it to the sleeve head. Only the very top of the gather is sewn to the fabric itself. I recommend using very thick, strong thread for this one. I used a 30 weight silk thread, which was very strong. But on the other hand, this did give me some awesome sleeve. Now, how do you keep that puff puffed? How do you do it? Back in the past, there were many things that people did. They used tarlatan and put it in. They used stuffing, and they also used hoops. In my case, I bought these amazing sleeve supports, aka hoops, from the Boudoir Key. I love them. They're so light and easy to use. I then sewed it to the top and the bottom of the sleeve, and now my sleeve had supports. However, the sleeve still had a tendency to sag down my arm on the side with the big puffs. The Victorians had a great solution for this. They put in a lining of sleeve that isn't puffed and on the inside of it, and sew the puff onto it so that the sleeve doesn't have a tendency to sag down. That's what I did. I lined the inside of the sleeve with my cotton muslin for this sad, straight, no puff sleeve, or as Marilla would say, sensible sleeve. And there you go. Nicely puffed sleeves that stand the test of gravity thanks to boring, non-puffed sleeves. You okay, Shishi? Now that the bodice was done, I made the skirt. Now, all 1890s skirts are about the same. They're half circles cut in some way or another. Every now and then you might see a 2/3 skirt or a 3/4 skirt, or even a full circle, but for the most part, they tend to be half circles. This one appeared to be cut with a front piece and 2 large side back pieces for a 3-gore skirt, versus the one that I usually do, which is either a 5 or a 7. And I like this since this meant that there would be fewer gaps in the Art Nouveau design. You want to be a lapdog girly girl? So I cut out the pieces, flatlined them with muslin, and then lined the bottom 10 inches with tarlatan. Now, tarlatan's really hard to get these days, so I linked it below. When you do see it, it's pretty cheap. It's like $3 a yard, so just buy like 10, 20 yards and keep it forever. Normally, I use horsehair interfacing, but that stuff is heavy. I do like horsehair because usually it's just like iron-on, but this dress was already way too heavy because of the fabric itself. The fabric I'm using is gorgeous, but it's definitely upholstery fabric and not really meant to be used for garments. I just wanted to do everything I could to make it as light as possible. Cut out the tarlatan pieces, put it along the bottom of the skirt, and stitched it by hand. Now, I stitched it by hand to just the muslin lining, so you don't see any of this on the outside velvet. I did initially do big basting stitches to keep it together since the pins just had a tendency to fall out of the fabric. Most 1890s dresses are in 2 pieces, a top and a bottom, and you put them on separately. However, I wanted mine to be super easy to get into, so I did the historically inaccurate thing of sewing them together at the waist. The waist seam will be covered up by this amazing belt that I have anyway, so I wasn't too worried. I did stitch this together, but I made the realization that the skirt wasn't really like puffing outwards a lot. I'm running into this problem where this part feels like it's going down too flatly. So what I'm going to do is, since I do have an extra bit of skirt here, I'm going to pull the skirt here and I'm going to put a dart right here, and that should in fact make the skirt fuller. And that will gather up the fabric a little bit more there and make it flare outward. I learned this from a pattern I had bought from Wearing History a couple of years back. I can link that one below too. And this actually made the skirt flare outwards more, and I love it now. It just felt like the skirt just draped so much more prettily. The pattern itself says get a pre-made color. Like, oh my God, I wish I could just go out and buy a pre-made gorgeous color, but that's not really a thing in 2025. And so I drafted mine and sewed it on by hand. I did add some tarlatan to the inside of the fabric to keep inside the collar to keep it up. For the closure, I did something that's completely historically inaccurate, but in my opinion, really awesome. I did a zipper. Not only did I do a zipper, I did a big metallic gold zipper. Usually you find hooks and eyes or buttons in the back, but I want to be able to get myself in and out of this dress pretty quickly. So I added in a zipper. I don't like invisible zippers because the teeth really aren't that strong, and this dress again is very heavy. So I got myself a firm metal zipper with gold teeth and hand stitched it into place in the back. I really like the hand stitching part because this meant that I got to line up the design exactly the way I wanted it in the back. I hemmed the bottom of the skirt by hand, and the dress was almost done. I then added some black velvet ribbon to the back at the neckline, so 1, I could close that gap, and 2, I could tie it into a bow with a long tail that would follow me as I walked. This is, of course, also historically accurate and so pretty. And now the dress was completely done. I will like to add that I am wearing this with a corset. Even if it is historically inaccurate with a zipper, you can still wear it with a corset. Overall, I love this dress and I can't wait to wear it to the fashion show at the Chicago History Museum in April. For those of you who want to go and see the show, you do need to be a member, but you can get discounted membership to the museum by following the link in my description and putting in the code. The museum was generous enough to offer a 20% discount for this video. Thank you again for watching, and I'll be working on an 1878 romantasy ball gown next. What gown would you like to see me make next? Please let me know in the comments. For those of you watching this, you may have noticed I have a slight obsession with Art Nouveau, like just a slight one. In any case, I am throwing an Art Nouveau ball in Chicago in March of 2026. The website, you can see all the details for it, including ticket tiers, pricing, as well as location on the website that I made for it, which is salonsocietyofchicago.com. And please take a look. Tickets will go up for sale March 1st, but I wanted everyone to know about it and kind of get the excitement up. So that's why the website is up now. Thank you so much. I'll see you next month. I like doggy, 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 doggy.